Welcome into Bama Central 3 and Out with Joey Blackwell and Mason Smith. I'm Katie Wyndham. Last night, Alabama basketball wrapped up non-conference play, or the non-conference portion of the schedule. They'll still play Oklahoma in the SEC Big 12 Challenge in January with a 10-2 record. Joey, starting with you, what grade do you give Alabama on this non-conference portion of their schedule?
To be honest, I'm kind of torn between two grades. I really want to give them an A minus or a B plus, kind of in that range. This is a team that, they do have two losses, but those two losses are to, if you're looking at Kim Palm, the number one team in the country in UConn, and the number 11 Gonzaga. A Gonzaga team, while they had their struggles, they still were able to keep it relatively close until the final couple of minutes when Gonzaga finally pulled away that 10-point win. So I'm really liking what the Alabama was able to do. If you look at the strength of schedules across the conference, Alabama is clearly far and away has the toughest non-conference schedule so far. So being able to have wins against, then number one North Carolina and number one Houston, they had a win against Michigan State. They also, of course, had the win over Memphis, which is a very underrated team. It's still shocking to me that Memphis isn't ranked. If they aren't, they will be soon. So I was very impressed by what they see, and even even if they weren't ranked teams, there were still a lot of solid mid majors that Bama played. And so when just looking at it, I think that if you had asked any Alabama fan heading into the season, would 10-2 be an acceptable record? I think most of them would say yes. So I give them I guess I'll probably lean B plus because definitely those two wins those two losses they have, if they had been wins, that would have really pushed them over the top. But I think B plus is a pretty accurate rating from me.
You know what, Joey? My grade is not too far from yours. I say A minus because I really do put a lot of stock into the wins they got. Again, number one Houston, number one North Carolina. Michigan State is going to be a good team this year. Gonzaga has always been competitive in terms of college basketball, no matter what their ranking is. So I do expect Alabama to kind of continue to improve, especially with those hard-earned wins. The reason it's not an A for me is specifically those two non-conference games against South Dakota State and Jackson State. Of course, both of those teams are tough, and the scores may indicate otherwise. But if you watch those two games, you would think, oh my goodness, the scores doesn't tell the whole story. With Jackson State,
Mhm.
yes, a 20-point spread. It's obviously a difference in talent, but people forget that Jackson State started the game on a 7-2 run against the Crimson Tide. So I think you know it's not the fault of the opponent if Alabama comes out, not with as much energy or not as enthused as they should be compared to other opponents. So I think that's something to have to keep in mind in terms of being good to great. As Nick Saban always says, competing to your highest level regardless of the opponent. So A minus for me, but I think the team still did great.
Man, y'all are some tough graders. I would give this team an A. Going 10-2 against that schedule. This team came in with high expectations, and they've overall delivered. I mean, they're a top 10 team. Brandon Miller came in with super high expectations, and he's delivered. He's the highest. I think going into last night, I think he actually did end up finishing still with double digits and 10 points. But I think heading into the Jackson State game, he was leading the SEC in scoring. He had all sorts of pressure on him, and he's delivered so far. And yeah, they did not play the best in that Jackson State game, but I think the fact that they were able to play so poorly and still win by 20 points shows just what kind of team they are. And like you said, Joey, I think the Mississippi State game and to open SEC play in a couple of weeks is going to kind of really give us a better picture of where both those teams are. But overall, Alabama has played, like you said, a tough schedule. As Nato said a couple of times over this past week, it's the first time since 2014 Alabama's entered SEC play with 10 wins, and that schedule is not comparable at all to the type schedule that Alabama has played. And we've
Mm.
seen Alabama basketball in recent years, example last year, had some big non-conference wins and then not be able to finish the season strong. So far, I would give this season an A, but we will have to see how things go in conference play and what kind of seed this team can get in the NCAA tournament to see how successful it is overall and what kind of grade we give at the end of the year. But that'll wrap up today's Bama Central 3 and Out. Thank you so much for watching.